Rick worked alone at the edge of the mining colony on planet Vor9. He was a repairman, fixing broken machines and old generators. The planet was dry and full of dust storms. Most people stayed in the city center, but Rick liked the quiet. He had an old shack and a toolbox, and that was enough. One afternoon, as he cleaned sand from a broken solar panel, he heard something strange. Gunshots. Rick dropped his tools and stood still. The shots came from the nearby ridge, where no one usually went. He heard a scream. It was sharp and full of fear. Without thinking, Rick grabbed his metal rod, the closest thing he had to a weapon, and ran toward the sound. He climbed the ridge and peeked over. Below, in a rocky field, he saw a strange scene. 3 space raiders in black armor surrounded a young alien girl. She had glowing blue skin, silver hair, and strange markings on her arms. She was hurt and breathing hard. Raider raised a blaster. Rick didn't stop to think. He slid down the hill, kicking up dust. The raiders turned. "Leave her alone," he shouted. One laughed. "Go away, human." Psst. "This isn't your business." Rick didn't listen. He threw his metal rod with full force. It hit one raider's helmet, making him stumble. The girl used the moment to jump aside. Rick grabbed a sharp rock and charged at the second raider. He wasn't a soldier or a hero, but he fought with all his strength. Dust filled the air. The third raider tried to shoot, but the girl kicked his arm. The blaster flew away. It was a messy fight. Rick took a few hits, but finally the raiders ran off into the rocks. Cursing and shouting, he dropped to his knees out of breath. The girl sat nearby, holding her side. "You okay?" Rick asked, breathing hard. She looked at him with wide eyes. "You saved me." "Why, yay," he said. "Are you hurt bad?" "I will live," she said softly. Rick stood up and offered his hand. She took it carefully. Her fingers were cool, her touch light. "We need to get you to shelter," Rick said. "My shack is close." She nodded, silent. Inside the shack, Rick helped her sit on a chair. He gave her clean water and bandaged a cut on her arm. She watched him the whole time, calm but intense. "You don't talk much," Rick said, trying to lighten the mood. "I am watching you," she said. He blinked. Why?" "You saved my life," she said. "No one ever did that before." "Well, I wasn't going to let them kill you." She leaned forward. "In my culture, this means something." Rick tilted his head. "What do you mean?" She touched the mark on her wrist. It glowed faintly. "You saved me from death. In the ways of my people, this creates a bond. You are now my husband." Silence filled the room. "What? You have life bonded me," she said, as if it were obvious. "We are one now." Rick stood up too fast and hit his head on a pipe. "Wait, no. I just helped you. That's all." She blinked. "You risked your life? You stood between me and death. That is the highest act of union among the Tereni." "Tereni? My people," she said. He sat down again, rubbing his head. "Listen, I didn't mean anything like that. I just saw someone in trouble. I would have done the same for anyone." "I know," she said softly. "That is why it matters." He looked at her. Her face was calm, but her eyes held something deep. Not romance, not excitement, a sense of duty, of tradition. "What's your name?" "I'm Rick." They sat in silence for a moment. Then a small beeping sound came from her belt. She grabbed the device and frowned. "They're scanning the area. The raiders want me back." "Who are they?" "They work for a rival clan. They want to take me to force." "A treaty? Treaty?" She looked at him seriously. "I am not just a girl. I am the youngest daughter of the Tereni High Circle, and my capture would bring shame to my house. But with you now life bonded to me, they will come for both of us." Rick sighed. "Great. I will not leave without you," she added. "That is also part of the bond." He stood and looked out the window. The sky was getting dark, and the sand winds were rising. Somewhere out there, enemies were searching for them. So what now? He asked, We run, Nara said. Together. Rick gave a small laugh. I fixed solar panels. I don't know how to fight a war. You saved me when no one else would, she said. That is more than most warriors have ever done. Looked at her, then at his broken old ship parked outside. Well, said with a tired smile, let's see if that old junk can fly. Rick couldn't stop pacing. His small shack now felt even smaller, with an alien girl sitting calmly at the table, watching him like he was some kind of hero, or worse, her husband. He rubbed the back of his neck. Okay, let's go over this again. You're saying, I saved your life, so now we're married? Nara nodded. Life bonded. The sacred word is varantai, is not a contract, not a choice. It is a soul promise. That's a little heavy, don't you think? Rick asked. I don't even know your favorite food. She tilted her head. My body does not require food in the human sense. I absorb energy. Right, he muttered. Of course you do. Nara looked around the shack. She was clearly out of place, like a jewel lost in the sand. Her clothes were torn from the fight, but they had once been royal, with silver lines and fine fabric. She sat straight, alert, even when injured. You have questions, she said. Do I ever? Rick sighed. Let's start simple. Those raiders after you? I carry a signal code. It unlocks the crystal gate of Thalmer. It is an ancient weapon or a message. No one knows. My clan wants to protect it. Others want to steal it. And you were just walking around with it. She shook her head. I was hidden with guards, but someone betrayed us. I ran, and they followed. Rick sat down. Okay, so you're a royal alien girl, and I'm a guy who fixes solar panels. Why does this life bond thing matter? Because Nara said gently, my people do not break such bonds. If I return home without you, they will say, I am dishonored. If I stay with you, I bring danger to your world. Well, that's just perfect, Rick muttered. No good deed goes unpunished. A sudden beep echoed from Nara's wrist. She tapped the small round device. A map appeared in the air, a blinking red dot moving closer. They've scanned your shack, she said. We have 10 minutes. Rick stood up fast. Okay, time to go. He grabbed a dusty bag, threw in a water pack, tools, and a few energy cells. Nara stood too, her movements graceful despite her wounds. Can your ship fly? Define fly, Rick said. It moves mostly, and it hasn't exploded in 3 years. That is somewhat comforting. They ran outside. Sand whipped at their faces as the sky turned gray. The old cargo ship stood on 4 rusty legs, half covered in dust. Rick punched the side. Wake up, girl. The hatch opened with a creak. Inside was a tight cockpit, some cracked seats, and blinking screens. It wasn't pretty, but it was theirs now. Nara sat in the co-pilot's seat and looked around. Primitive, but functional. Thanks for the insult, Rick muttered as he powered the engine. The ship rumbled like a waking beast. He hit the thrusters. The ship lifted slowly, dust blowing in all directions. Shadow passed above them. Ship incoming, Nara shouted. A black raider craft swooped down, firing a warning shot. Rick jerked the controls. Hold on. The old ship twisted hard and shot forward. The raider gave chase. The stars opened wide as they left the planet's pole. Nara looked out the window, her expression unreadable. Where do we go? Rick asked. We must find a safe place to hide. Then, I need to reach my people. Rick glanced at her. Do your people know about this life bond thing? She nodded. They will test it. If they believe it's true, you will be accepted. And if they don't, they may separate us, she said softly. Or worse. He sighed. I miss my toolbox already. She smiled for the first time, a small, honest smile. You are strange, Rick. I get that a lot. Suddenly the radar beeped again. They're still chasing us, he said. We must go where they won't follow, Nara replied. She pulled out a small crystal from her belt. It glowed faintly. This holds the last jump code to the Forgotten Belt. Rick raised an eyebrow. Forgotten sounds dangerous. It is, she said, but also secret. Only old ships can survive the trip. Your ship is old. Rick nodded. Can't argue with that. He entered the coordinates. The ship shook as the jump drive powered up. Here goes nothing, said with a flash of light. They disappeared into hyperspace. They arrived in a dark region of space. Broken ships floated silently, like ghosts. A huge asteroid field lay ahead. Rick slowed the ship. What now? We wait, Nara said. No one will search here. Not yet. Silence settled around them. Rick turned to her. You really believe this life bond stuff? She looked at him seriously. It is not belief. It is truth. My people feel it. A pull. A connection that cannot be explained. And you feel it with me? Yes. Rick looked down. Well, I don't know what I feel. I just know I didn't want to see you hurt. She nodded. That is where life bonds begin. The stars outside flickered. Rick leaned back in his chair. All right, he said. We're stuck together, then let's figure this out. One step at a time. Nara reached out and placed her hand gently on his. One step, she said, but not alone. The ship floated in the quiet shadows of the asteroid field. Outside the window, giant rocks drifted slowly in space, glowing faintly from faraway stars. Rick had never seen this place before. It felt lost, but peaceful. He sat in the pilot's seat, chewing on a protein bar, watching Nara as she worked on a glowing crystal tablet. She sat cross-legged on the floor, focused and silent. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light. So, any idea how long we're hiding here? Rick asked. Nara didn't look up. A few hours, maybe less. Raiders move fast. Rick leaned back in his chair. Then maybe now's a good time for answers. Nara glanced at him. You still have questions? I've got a list, Rick said, holding up a notepad. Number 1. What's this crystal gate you mentioned? A weapon? Nara stood and walked over. She held up the crystal tablet. A small map appeared in the Aerostar. System with a glowing blue structure in the center. The crystal gate of Thalmor, she said. It is old, older than my people. It was built by an unknown race. Some say it is a portal to another galaxy. Others believe it holds a power beyond stars. My family protects its location. Rick frowned, and the Raiders, they want control. Power. With the gate, they could rule many worlds. Great, Rick muttered. So by saving you, I walked right into a galaxy-sized mess. Nara nodded seriously. Yes, but you also became part of something greater. Before Rick could respond, a loud beep echoed from the ship's radar. The screen flashed red. Nara rushed to the console. A ship just entered the asteroid field. Raider markings. How did they find us? Rick asked, jumping to the pilot. See, they followed your jump signature. Only a skilled hunter could track it. Rick groaned, of course. Lucky us. The enemy ship came into view, a sleek black vessel with glowing red lights and sharp wings. It moved like a bird ready to strike. They're charging weapons, Nara shouted. Hold on. Rick pulled the control stick hard. The ship tilted and dove into the asteroid field. Rocks zipped past them. Dust and ice hit the window. The Raider followed, firing blasts of plasma that lit up the shadows. The ship isn't made for fighting, Rick shouted. It is made for running, Nara said calmly. So run. Rick pushed the thrusters. The engine groaned but responded. They weaved between massive boulders, using the rocks as shields. One shot grazed their side, shaking the whole ship. Shields down to 50, Rick yelled. I'll boost power from the engine core, Nara said, already pulling off a panel and working fast. More shots came. One hit close, and the ship jerked violently. Sparks flew. Alarms blared. Rick gritted his teeth. We're not going to make it like this. I have an idea, Nara said, standing. Head toward that large asteroid. Rick saw it, a huge rock with cracks and tunnels across its surface. Into that? He asked. Trust me, she said. He nodded. All right, hang on. He flew straight into the asteroid's largest tunnel. The ship barely fit. The raider followed, slower now. The inside was narrow and dark. Rick turned off the ship's lights and slowed down. "Why are we stopping?" he whispered. Nara held the crystal from earlier. It began to glow. She touched the console, and a strange pulse came from the ship. Suddenly, part of the asteroid lit up in a soft blue light. A hidden door opened. "In here," she said. Rick flew the ship into the opening. As soon as they passed through, the door closed behind them. Darkness returned. They were inside a massive hidden cave. "Where are we?" Rick asked. Nara looked around, her voice quiet. "It's an ancient vault, built by the gatekeepers." "Gatekeepers?" She nodded. "The ones who created the Crystal Gate. My people believe they left clues across the galaxy. This is one of them." The ship hovered above the ground. Strange machines and glowing crystals filled the cave. A tall spire stood in the center, humming with energy. "Land there," Nara pointed. Rick landed the ship near the spire. They both stepped out onto the stone floor. The air felt heavy, filled with something old like memory. Nara approached the spire and placed her hand on it. It lit up. Symbols appeared in the air. Rick couldn't read them, but somehow he understood. A human and a Tyranny. "Just walk together," he read slowly. Nara looked at him. "It's a prophecy." "About us?" She nodded. "The gatekeepers saw this coming? A time when two races must unite to stop great destruction?" Rick looked around, amazed. "So saving you wasn't just luck?" "No," Nara said. "It was fate." Before they could speak more, the vault shook. "The raider is trying to blast the rock," Rick said. "He knows we're hiding." Nara took a glowing stone from the spire. "It holds coordinates to the next clue. We must leave before this place falls." They rushed back into the ship. Rick powered the engines again. "Where do we go now?" he asked, and Nara showed him the stone. "The planet of Shadows Maranthar. If the next piece of the puzzle is there, we must find it." "And the raider?" She looked back. "If we survive this, he will not follow." Rick smiled. "This gives him something to remember us by." He flew out of the cave using a back tunnel, dodging debris as the vault collapsed behind them. A blast of light threw the raider ship backward. They jumped into hyperspace just as the asteroid exploded. As the stars stretched around them, Rick looked at Nara. "I'm starting to think this life bond might not be such a bad thing after all." Nara smiled softly. "It was never a bad thing. You just didn't understand it yet." He laughed. "Well, I'm learning fast." They sat side by side in the quiet hum of space, heading toward the next mystery. The ship glided through the silver-blue glow of hyperspace, quiet and steady. Rick sat at the controls, eyes focused ahead, but his mind was racing. Next to him, Nara studied the glowing stone they had taken from the ancient vault. It floated in the air, spinning slowly. Casting symbols on the walls, Rick finally spoke. "So, this prophecy says a human and a Tyranny must work together to stop a disaster?" "Yes," Nara said, without looking up. "You and me?" Rick raised an eyebrow. "But why me? I'm no warrior, no leader." She turned to him. "The gatekeepers did not choose you for your strength. It chose you for your heart." He chuckled softly. "Well, they could have warned me first." Nara smiled. It was the kind of smile that made the cold ship feel a little warmer. Soon, the ship exited hyperspace, arriving near a dark planet with thick clouds, Moranthar. It didn't glow like most worlds. It was cold, silent, and hidden. "Are you sure? The next clue is here?" Rick asked. "Yes," Nara said. The stone pointed to a temple deep in the shadows. As they entered the atmosphere, fog wrapped around the ship. Lightning flashed in the distance. "This place gives me the creeps," Rick muttered. The ship landed near a valley filled with black trees and silver mist. The air was cold, and the ground was soft underfoot. Nara led the way, the glowing stone. Floating ahead of her like a guide, "This world was once a learning place for the gatekeepers," she explained. "But it was forgotten after the Great Silence." Rick looked around. "What's the Great Silence?" "No one knows. One day all signs of the gatekeepers vanished. They left behind puzzles, ruins, and warnings." They walked for hours through the dark forest until they reached a tall stone gate covered in vines. The stone floated toward a small slot in the gate, then stopped. Rick stepped closer. Stone glowed brighter. "I think it wants you to open it," Nara said. "Me?" "It asked." She nodded. "Try touching it." Rick hesitated, then placed his hand on the stone. It grew warm and pulsed with light. The gate rumbled, and slowly it opened. Behind the gate was a large hall with walls made of crystal and light. Strange symbols floated in the air, and soft humming filled the space. Rick took a deep breath. This doesn't look like anything built by humans. Nara looked around with wonder. Only a true bondmate can open this place. "You are not just a man, Rick. You are part of the gatekeeper's plan, eh?" We walked deeper into the hall until they reached a round platform. In the center stood a tall crystal pillar. As they stepped near it, the crystal lit up and a voice filled the room, not loud but deep and powerful. "Human Tyranny, you have awakened the second path." Rick stepped back. "Is that recording?" "No," Nara said softly. "This is a mind echo, a living memory." The voice continued, "Long ago, we saw the future. Two would come. One born of stars, one born of earth. Together, they would end the war that has not yet begun." Rick asked. "The one rising in the shadows," the voice said. "And you, human, carry something inside you?" A spark left by us. Rick stared at the pillar. "Me? Why? I'm just a normal guy." The pillar glowed brighter. A beam of light scanned Rick from head to toe. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, like something inside him had woken up. Nara stepped forward. "What is inside him? Seed? A link to our knowledge? It will grow when the moment comes." The light faded, and the voice was gone. Silence filled the room. Rick sat down on the edge of the platform, holding his head. "A seed? What does that mean? Am I some kind of chosen one?" Nara sat beside him. "It means you are more than you thought. We are not alone in this fight." He looked at her. "Do you really believe this prophecy?" She nodded. "It is the reason I was taught to honor the life bond. People knew the gatekeepers would. Send a sign, and they sent you." Rick laughed nervously. "Well, I hope they picked the right guy." She reached out and touched his hand gently. "You may not feel ready, but when the time comes, I believe you will be." They sat there for a while, just breathing in the quiet energy of the ancient place. Back at the ship, Rick sat at the controls while Nara rested nearby. "So what's next?" He asked Nara to check the crystal stone. "The next location will appear when we are ready. For now, we must prepare." Rick nodded. "And the raiders?" "They won't stop." "No," Nara said. "They will send stronger ones. Maybe even the hunter." Rick frowned. "The hunter?" She looked serious. "Is the best tracker in the galaxy. Silent, cold. He does not fail." Rick leaned back. "Great. Now I have a space bounty on my head." She smiled softly. "You also have me." He looked at her and smiled back. "That part I don't mind." As the ship lifted off and disappeared into the stars again, neither of them saw the dark shadow that followed from a distance. Far behind, hidden in the clouds of Moranthar, a sleek ship with red eyes watched them leave. Inside, a tall figure sat still, face hidden behind a mask. Voice was cold and quiet. "Target marked. Life bond confirmed. Prepare for capture." The hunter had arrived. The cold darkness of space stretched endlessly as Rick's old cargo ship flew toward the distant world of Thalon. The stars were bright, but the mood inside the ship was tense. Rick sat at the pilot console, gripping the controls tightly. Next. To him, Nara checked the ship's systems, her face calm but serious. "We're running low on energy cells," Rick said. "If we can't recharge soon, we'll be sitting ducks." Nara nodded. "I will try to contact my people for help." Rick glanced over at her. "You sure about that? The moment they know where you are, they might send more enemies." "I have no choice," she said. "They are the only ones who can protect us now." Suddenly, the ship's alarm beeped sharply. A red warning flashed on the screen. "Scanner. Shows multiple ships approaching fast," Rick said, his voice tense. Nara's eyes narrowed. "The hunter has found us." Rick swallowed hard. "I heard stories about him. They say he never misses." Nara placed a hand on his arm. "We cannot run forever." The ship shook as distant blasts hit the hull. The raiders were closing in. Rick pulled back on the controls, steering the ship into a narrow asteroid belt. Huge rocks floated silently, casting long shadows. "We'll lose them in here," Rick said, trying to sound confident. Nara helped, scanning the path ahead. "Be careful. Some rocks are unstable." The ship weaved sharply between the floating boulders. Behind them, red laser blasts lit up the darkness. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the ship. Sparks flew from the engine. "We took a hit," Rick shouted. "Shields are holding, but not for long," Nara warned. Rick gritted his teeth and pushed the engine harder. "Come on, old girl. Don't fail me now." The ship lurched forward. Suddenly, a bright flash exploded nearby. One of the raider ships was hit by an unseen blast and exploded. Nara's eyes widened. "Someone is helping us." Rick frowned. "Who?" Before they could guess, a friendly ship appeared from the shadows. It was sleek and fast, painted in blue and white colors. A voice crackled through their combs. "This is Captain Sela of the Starguard. We received your distress signal. We're here to assist." Rick sighed in relief. Finally, the Starguard ship fought off the raiders with swift laser fire and missiles. Rick's ship followed close behind. After the fight, Captain Sila's ship docked with theirs in space. Essel appeared on the screen, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a warm smile. "Nara," she said, nodding respectfully. "We heard you were life bonded. This complicates things." Nara returned the nod. "I need your help. The raiders want the Crystal Gate coordinates." Silas sighed. "The galaxy is not safe right now, but we will protect you." Rick stepped forward, trying to understand. "So what now? We just wait for the next attack?" "No," Sela said firmly. "We must take the fight to them." Past as Rick trained with the Starguard, he learned to use new weapons, pilot better ships, and understand alien tactics. Nara stayed close, teaching him about the Terreni culture and their ancient history. One evening, as the sun set over the Starguard base, Rick and Nara sat on a hill overlooking the ships. "You're doing better than I expected," Nara said, smiling. Rick laughed. "Thanks. I never thought I'd be a soldier." She reached out and touched his hand. "You're more than that now. You carry the hope of two worlds." Rick looked at her seriously. "I'm scared, Nara. What if I fail?" She squeezed his hand. "Then I will stand with you." But not everyone was happy about their bond. In the Terreni High Circle, elders whispered. "Behind closed doors, you risk shame by keeping the human alive," one elder said. "He is an outsider." Another said, "Unworthy of Nara." The Terreni leader, Elder Kesh, spoke calmly. "If the prophecy is true, then he must be tested." Nara's eyes flashed. "I will not lose Rick." Back with Rick and Nara, the Starguard prepared for battle. The raiders had built a fortress on a remote moon, guarding stolen gate technology. "We attack at dawn," Captain Sela said. Rick tightened his grip on his weapon. "Let's finish this." At dawn, the fleet soared toward the enemy moon. The battle was fierce. Rick flew a fighter, dodging laser fire and missile strikes. Nara fought beside him, her skills sharp and fierce. Together, they destroyed the fortress's defenses. Inside the fortress, the raider leader faced them. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," he sneered. We know enough, Rick said. This ends now. With courage and teamwork, Rick and Nara captured the leader and secured the gate technology as the dust settled. Rick and Nara stood together. Looking at the rising sun, "We did it," Rick said softly. Nara smiled. Together. He looked at her and realized something. This life bond was no longer a mystery or a burden. It was a promise of hope. The great chamber of the Tereni High Circle rose like a crystal palace, glowing softly under the twin suns of their homeworld. Airless, Rick stepped inside, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon him. Around the circular hall, elders dressed in shining robes sat on tall seats carved from pure crystal. Their faces were proud and stern, their gaze heavy with expectation and doubt. Nara walked beside Rick, her silver hair catching the light. She held his hand tightly, a silent promise. At the center of the chamber stood Elder Kesh, the leader of the Tereni Council. Sharp eyes studied Rick carefully. "Human," Elder Kesh began, his voice calm but firm. "You stand before the High Circle accused of trespassing sacred laws. You claim to be life-bonded to Princess Nara. Explain yourself." Swallowed. He was not used to speaking before such a powerful group, but he felt Nara's steady presence. "Honorable elders," Rick began. "I am Rick, a simple repairman from the mining colony on Voronine. I never wished for power or titles. But when I saw Nara in danger, I acted. I saved her life. And now, I stand here because of that choice." A murmur passed through the room. Some elders nodded. Others frowned. Nara stepped forward. "My people have laws, yes. But the life bond is not just Lut, is destiny. Rick and I are bound by more than words. We share a connection that cannot be broken." Elder Kesh raised a hand, silencing the room. "Words alone do not prove a bond. You must pass the trial of fire. Only then will we accept this union." Rick's heart pounded. Trial of fire? "The test is both physical and spiritual," the elder explained. "You will face dangers that challenge your courage, your mind, and your loyalty. If you succeed, the bond will be honored." Nara looked at Rick. "I will be by your side." Nodded. "Then I am ready." The trial began at dawn in the sacred grounds of Airless. A tall arena of stone stood surrounded by glowing trees and bright flowers. Rick and Nara entered together, watched by hundreds of Tereni citizens and elders. The first challenge was a test of courage. Rick faced a creature known as the Shadow Wraith, a large, black beast with glowing red eyes. It moved silently, striking from the darkness. The crowd gasped as the beast lunged. Rick dodged, on a sharpened staff given by Nara. He remembered her words, "Trust your heart, not just your strength." With quick moves, Rick struck the beast, breaking its hold. The creature vanished, leaving a soft light behind. The crowd cheered. Next was the test of wisdom. Rick and Nara stood before a giant puzzle of glowing stones. They had to arrange the stones in the correct order to unlock the ancient gate. Rick studied the symbols, recalling lessons from the gatekeepers. With Nara's help, they moved the stones together. When the last stone clicked into place, the gate opened, revealing a hidden chamber filled with light. The final test was loyalty. A voice echoed in the chamber, speaking to Rick alone. "Choose, abandon the Tereni, or lose the one you love." Rick's heart ached. How could he choose? He looked around and saw Nara waiting. "I choose neither," he said firmly. "I stand with Nara and her people, together." The chamber filled with bright light. When it cleared, Elder Kesh smiled. "You have passed the trial," he declared. "Your bond is true." The crowd erupted in applause. Nara smiled brightly, tears in her eyes. Rick felt a new strength inside him. He was no longer just a repairman. He was part of something greater. Together, Rick and Nara had earned their place among the Tarni. As the ceremony ended, Rick and Nara stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns set, painting the sky with gold and pink. Nara leaned on Rick's shoulder. "Your journey has only begun," she said softly. Rick smiled. "With you, I'm ready for whatever comes." Together, they watched the stars appear, shining bright with hope. The twin sons of Airless rose slowly, casting warm light over the city where Rick and Nara stood ready. The Tereni people gathered around, their faces full of hope and fear. Today was the day the final battle would decide the fate of their worlds. Rick adjusted his armor, a mix of Tereni technology and his own simple style. Nara stood beside him, her silver hair shining like a beacon. Their life bond was no longer a secret. It was a symbol of unity between two races. The enemy was near, the Raider clan that had hunted Nara since her escape. They came with powerful ships and dark weapons, seeking to claim the Crystal Gate and control the galaxy. Captain Sela led the Star Guard fleet, ready to fight alongside the Tereni warriors. The air was thick with tension. Rick looked at Nara and smiled, ready. Nara nodded. Together, the battle began with a roar. Ships soared through the sky, firing beams of energy. On the ground, warriors clashed with raiders in fierce combat. Rick fought with courage, staff glowing with ancient power from the gatekeepers. Nara moved gracefully beside him, her agility and skill unmatched. Amid the chaos, the raider leader appeared, a towering figure in black armor, his eyes cold and cruel. He raised a weapon that pulsed with dark energy. "You will surrender the gate," he snarled, "or be destroyed." Rick stepped forward, voice steady. "You will not have it, not while we stand." The raider laughed. "Foolish human." Suddenly, the raider fired. A dark beam shot toward Rick, but Nara jumped in front, absorbing the blast. Her body glowed brightly. The life bond between her and Rick sparked like fire. Rick felt a surge of energy inside him. The seed the gatekeeper spoke of had grown. He raised his staff, sending a wave of light toward the raider. The dark energy clashed with the light, shaking the ground. "Your bond is strong," the raider hissed, "but not enough." Nara gritted her teeth. "We will see." Together, Rick and Nara moved as one. Their attacks were swift, their movements in perfect harmony. The raider stumbled, overwhelmed by their power. Nearby, Captain Sila led the Star Guard in pushing back the raiders' ships. Explosions lit the sky as the enemy fleet fell apart. Rick and Nara fought through the enemy lines. Reaching the Crystal Gate's control chamber, Nara placed her hand on the console. The gate lit up, its power flowing through her and Rick. A bright portal opened, shining with the light of 1,000 stars. "This is the gate's true power," Nara said, "to bring peace between worlds." The raider leader lunged one last time, but Rick blocked him. With a final strike, Rick's staff broke the raider's weapon. The enemy fell to his knees. Silence spread across the battlefield. The raiders retreated. Their threat ended. Rick and Nara stood before the glowing gate, their hands joined. "We did it," Rick said softly. Nara smiled. "Together we saved more than just our lives." The crowd cheered, their voices rising in joy. Later in the high circle chamber, Elder Kesh spoke to the people. "Let this day be remembered," he said. "A human and a Tereni bound by fate have brought peace to our galaxy. Their bond is the light that will guide us." Rick looked at Nara, feeling the deep connection between them. He knew this was only the beginning of a new era, an era where hope, trust, and friendship would shape the stars. Under the twin suns, Rick and Nara stood side by side, ready to face the future together. The end.